101 review. Book 101 is all about the books that are right for the right for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He is the author of the upcoming novel, Demones Ex Machina, no other than Mr. Russell Anders.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Welcome to Book 101, Mr. Russell. Can you please introduce more about yourself?
Sure. I'm Russell Anders. I am a dog lover. I'm a amateur power builder, and I am a long time fantasy and sci-fi nerd. Movies, TV, books, and tabletop role-playing games.
Wow, interesting indeed. Mr. Russell Anders, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Hoping for more and more empowering books like this to come. Demones Ex Machina. How does it reflect the book core themes, the title itself? I don't know what happened, but my first question, Mr. Russell, what does the title Demones Ex Machina signify, and how does it reflect the book or book's core themes?
So when I first came up with this idea, I knew that there was going to be a supernatural element that was going to play a heavy part in the core conflict. When I was thinking about that, a heavy hand said to me, I actually pictured the last scene of Stephen King's The Stand, where God's hand itself comes down from heaven, and that had me thinking of Deus ex machina. Except I knew my supernatural influence was not going to be divine. So demonis is actually an archaic way of saying demons, and the rest sort of just fell right into place.
What inspired you to blend horror and theological thriller with philosophical or supernatural elements?
I was actually coming at this from a place of desperation for the characters. So cyberpunk as a whole struck me as a genre where the protagonists are usually down and out and pushed to some kind of extreme situation where sometimes they will be willing to trade body parts for upgrades, even though there's nothing wrong with them. So I wanted to take that and do the Emerald Lagasse, kick it up a notch. So what's one step up from trading body parts would be the human soul, and that created a whole morality play element to it, which I thought lent it really well to the core struggles of cyberpunk. Um, you know, Oftentimes doing the right thing is not really something that people have the option to consider when their backs are against the wall um, in a techno thriller. But this let me put more of a human spin on it, less about being corporate assets and more about the what it does to the soul to be a corporate asset.
Is there a real world myth, technology, or historical event that shape this story?
A lot of the tech is based on real world things. The phrase I've heard a lot applied to cyberpunk is that it's science fiction that's 5 minutes in the future. There's a lot of things in there that don't exist yet, but it doesn't take a lot of imagination to figure maybe in 10, 20 years it could be. So a lot of the technology was just a logical extension of what we have now. As far as the folklore, I did not do a ton of deep dives into demonology. I really wanted to go with something that was very accessible to people. So I went with what is commonly understood to be the thing that you do when you make a deal with infernal forces, drawing on things like Dr. Faust. So it was just a simple matter of making a bargain and then winding up getting a lot more than you bargained for.
Interesting indeed, Mr. Russell. How does the book explore the relationship between humanity and the unknown?
I think what the book really explores is the relationship between humanity and itself, and how that can be impacted by things we may not consider, such as our own dark impulses and technology. That was something that I remember William Gibson talking a lot about when he talked about Neuromancer, was not just cybernetic limbs and things like that, but the societal effects of the ubiquitous data sphere. And there's been since Neuromancer, there's a lot of direct real world evidence to talk about how being hooked into a constant data feed can affect not just our own selves, but how we interact with each other. So that's not exactly the unknown, but I do think that that has a lot to do with um, the unconsidered, and I definitely wanted to throw that in there.
What philosophical or ethical questions did you want readers to grapple with?
So you talked about horror in your first question, and one of the things that I remember reading at one point was that a lot of horror, a lot of good horror, is actually a morality play, and that was something that I really wanted to insert into this book. This is not a genre that is known for dealing with ethical quandaries. It's usually just people in really bad scrapes doing what they can to get out okay, complete the mission, that kind of thing. But by introducing supernatural evil into it, um, I had the opportunity to turn this into a story in which people grapple with what the right thing to do is. And it's not always an easy question, because the right thing to do may run up against what is expedient. And that happens quite a bit, in fact. So it's not something that people sit around and talk about. There's not a lot of moralizing in the book, but at the end of the day, it is a prime concern of the narrative, if not the characters.
So let's talk about the characters and conflict, Mr. Russell. Which character's journey was most personal for you to write and why?
So actually, there are three main characters. There's Guion, there's John, and there's Friede, and all of them come from me. Uh, all of the characters, certainly those three, they the core inspiration was something about me at some point in my life. So Friede represents my childhood insecurities and self-loathing. Um, Guion is a more adult tendency to hyper rationalize things, and John is a representation of my stark and sometimes naive morality. So it was actually a very personal thing for me to write all of their journeys. It was just that it spoke to different pieces of me as I did each one. That's not to say that they are all actually true representations of me now. As part of the development process, they each became their own individuals who had significant differences from me, and grew to be their own people. And that's when the story really began to take off. But there was still a personal connection I felt to each of them. So it would be hard to say that any one of them trumps the other in terms of that personal link. I'd say all three of their journeys hit me differently, and it was kind of cathartic to write each one.
And how do your protagonists confront forces beyond their control? Do they resist, submit, or transform?
I'd say there's a different answer for each of them, and that
Mhm.
was that was a big reason why that was that was a big determiner as to figuring out who they were going to be, because I knew that I wanted each of them to have a different reaction and a different way of coping with the ramifications of their infernal bargains. So Freedy, being the one who's largely immature, just rolls with it. He doesn't resist. He does transform, but it's not an intentional transformation. It's definitely an externally driven one. Guion is the one who figures he's clever enough to play with the details and out-lawyer, his demonic companion. And John is the one who has that more genuine come to Jesus moment, really, where he just takes a look at the mirror and realizes what he has allowed and what he has become, and makes a decision as to what he really needs to do to be the kind of person that he wants to be.
Is there a villain in the story, or are the conflicts more ambiguous?
It's something of both. There's definitely a lot of internal conflict. The demons, despite being supernaturally, evil, they come from hell, are not actually the main villains of the book. They more serve to highlight the internal struggles that each of the protagonists has. There is a main villain. Kind of exists on two levels. One is there's a big bad mega corporation. This is cyberpunk after all. But there does also I do put a face to that as well with the chief of security, who becomes somebody something of a boogeyman for them, who they have to contend with for quite a bit of the story.
Interesting indeed, Mr. Russell. And let's talk about the narrative style and structure. Why did you choose to frame this narrative?
So what I wound up developing was a two-tier story. There's the A story, which contains the bulk of the plot. That's the heist gone bad, the mega corporation and its manhunt and all of that stuff. It would probably be the thing that you reference if you're talking about the book to somebody else, and especially if you're giving a summary of it. Then there's the B story, and the B story is a lot more personal. And there's multiple. Each main character has his own B story. These are things that aren't going to make or break the world or anything like that, but it could make or break that one person's world. And the reason I did it that way was because that big overarching plot, it's just necessary. Maybe it's not necessary for every kind of book, but I felt like it was absolutely needed here. There needed to be something happening in the world. Plus, it gives me an opportunity to, get on a soapbox and say a little something about the world. But that B story, that human side, I think I needed to put that in there in order to feel like this was something other than a fun and forgettable read. I wanted this to ultimately be something that could resonate with all the readers. And, none of us, I assume, are paramilitary operatives who engage in regular corporate sabotage, but all of us struggle with with inner demons, doubt, self-hatred, guilt, any number of things. And the demons lean on these things. And it is by coping with them, by sometimes learning to manage them, or even, assimilate and heal through them. These are that B tier individual story that I thought really gave this tale a soul.
Mr. Russell, as a debut author, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
My short-term goals are to, after launch, which is 7 days from now, to take a couple of days off and just learn how to relax, because it has been a a roller coaster. I thought things were going to be done once I handed in the manuscript, and that's just when the work began. So I need to just downshift for just a day or two and take a breath. And then after that, I pick it up and I start all over again, because this has been an incredible amount of work. It has certainly been trying at times, but there has been nothing so rewarding. And I want to do it again for myself to show that I've got another one in me. And I'm pretty sure I do. But I don't want to keep it on faith.
Yes, looking forward for that second book, Mr. Russell. And good luck to your goals. Have relax and have a Kit Kat, have they said. So, what will be your piece of advice for those people out there procrastinating to be an author?
Procrastinating. I know your pain. I did that plenty. What I can say is, from a lot of personal experience, that moment of inspiration that strikes you out of nowhere and just fires you up so that you just burn through pages, it doesn't come. It's if you wait for it, it will not arrive. Show up, do it when you don't want to. Treat it like a job. You're not always gonna want to, and you have to do it anyway. I have found that when I keep to a regular schedule, whether I feel like it's going to be a good writing day or not, whether I want to or not, usually, even a bad day will turn around within the first 5 to 10 minutes. I just have to get started. Then momentum will take care of the rest. Habit and momentum are going to be some of your best friends.
Habit for sure, and consistency. Mr. Russell, thank you so much for your advice. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Yeah, I'll give you two, both by the same author, in fact, because I think he's an absolute genius. Stephen King might be
Of
low hanging
course.
fruit. Everybody loves King. Um, King had two books that I found incredibly influential. The first was On Writing, which is one of the best books on writing that I have ever read. It's a surprisingly engaging read for something that has a whole section on grammar in it. But there's a lot of tidbits in there that can tune up your writing to an amazing degree. It's not going to be the place where you learn basic English con and comp, but when you're ready, when you've got a solid grip on the basics and you're ready to get really good, I cannot more highly recommend that book. I give it away to any friend who thinks that they might want to get started writing something. And then the other book that I found extremely influential was The Wizard in Glass, which is actually book 4 of the Dark Tower series. However, it actually exists in its own space. The entire book, aside from a chapter at the beginning and the end, is a flashback. So if you don't want to read the rest of it, though I do recommend that you do, you can read it on its own, and it's perfectly fine. And the reason I recommend that is everything that you will see in On Writing, all the advice that you see in there, you will get to see put into practice to genius levels of effect in that book. I took so much away from it. It's a phenomenal example of all of those tiny things that King talks about in On Writing.
Thank you for that recommendation, Mr. Russell. And tell us what research was required to write this book.
Way more than I expected for fiction. I thought I was going to be getting away with kind of an easy ride by doing something that I could just make up most stuff. But if I wanted to have a sense of authenticity and verisimilitude, I did a lot of research specifically into corporate culture and modern corporate culture. And I was surprised to find out that there's a richness there that I had no concept of. It started with reading Naomi Klein's No Logo, which talked about the shift in the early 2000s from corporations aligning themselves with the products that they produce shifting away from that to the brand that they produce. So Nike is no longer about sneakers. Nike is about the swoop and all of the various things that they can put it on, and how that changed how business operated. And that had a lot to do. I don't talk about it a ton in the book, but it was a massive part of setting up my world.
Interesting, Mr. Russell. What's one question you wish someone would ask about this book?
That's a great question. Let's see. I wonder if I think I'd love to answer the question as to why I wrote it. And to that, I would say that I wanted to write something that took a realistic and perhaps even grim view of the direction that we are headed in as a society, but that at its core doesn't give up on the potential that humanity has, to be not only better but sometimes just downright heroic.
Heroic indeed. And Mr. Russell, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please to listen to my other podcast, people, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast, Mental Health 101, and Law 101, Love Letters in third season, and Movie 101 Review, Music 101 in fourth season, in Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. Mr. Russell, if readers take away one idea or feeling from Demones Ex Machina, what would it be?
I would say the idea is it's never too late to do the right thing, and that the decision to do that always matters.
Definitely. Mr. Russell Anders, thank you so much for sharing your debut book to the world. Hoping it will become a bestseller and award winning to all of us. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your Demones Ex Machina?
Certainly. You can find me on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, and
Go ahead.
you can always you can find my all news about anything that I'm working on at russellandersbooks.com.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Russell Anders, because if you support him, for sure, more and more and more empowering novels like this to come. So, Mr. Russell, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
More to come, people. See you soon.